This is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 22 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I've done radio for a long time. I'm going to say 3 decades, right?
Yep.
The subject of legalizing marijuana has come up many, many times in those 30-something years. And it's interesting how the opinion of the people who call in has changed a little bit, or no, a lot. Has changed a lot. I would tell you that 30 years ago, pretty much everybody equated it in the same way they would think of as an opium or something, a harder drug, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's not considered that by most people who call in. We still have some who feel like it should never be legalized, but I would say in our area, I'm gonna say at least 70% of the people think it should be legalized, yep. And another 20 probably think it should be decriminalized, mm-hmm. And then there's that 10% probably that still thinks it should be illegal. Dawson Hobbs is on the phone. Dawson is the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for the Wine and Spirit Wholesalers of America, of all organizations to chime in on this topic, talking about why the federal government should give states the power to legalize cannabis. I agree. Whether you legalize it or not, it should be up to the states, not the federal government. Good morning, Dawson. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, you're welcome. Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm in D.C.
Oh, okay. I'm guessing marijuana is not legal in D.C., right?
It's actually decriminalized here, but there's no regulated marijuana marketplace. It's sort of an in-between world here.
Yeah. So which states have actually legalized it? Is it Colorado and California, or just Colorado?
No, it's Colorado. There's 9 states: Colorado, California, Alaska, Oregon, Washington, Massachusetts, Maine, and then this year Michigan's considering it on the ballot. So it's really spreading across the country, and that's what kind of brought us to the position that we've taken, which is that it's time for the federal government to resolve this conflict between state and federal law.
That's it. I mean, that's the conflict. If Colorado says it's okay, then, but yet the federal government says it's not, what happens with that conflict?
Well, it creates quite a problem, and it creates a problem for the businesses that are operating, which are violating federal law. They can't use banking services from federally licensed banks, and a number of other problems. But what we really think is important is that the Congress gives states the right to legalize, but also make sure that the states meet their regulatory responsibility, and that is they shouldn't be able to just legalize and have a loose regulatory structure. They should have a regulatory structure that protects public safety, that regulates the marketplace, that prevents diversion to states that have not chosen to legalize. And we think the best model for that is one based on alcohol regulations.
Oh, okay, and that explains why. But your organization, Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America, is chiming in on this.
Right. We think that we have 85 years of history of effective regulation, 85 years of a safe marketplace, 85 years without counterfeit products in the market. And it's a marketplace that has created consumer confidence. It's one that still allows room for innovation and new products to come to the market. We have a thriving craft movement. All of those things are goals that should be in front of the marijuana marketplace, including limiting underage access and not having impaired drivers on the road.
And this would also help the states because your product would be taxed then.
Yeah, the marijuana would be effectively taxed just like alcohol is. Our industry, the alcohol industry, returns billions of dollars to state, federal, and local governments that go into their coffers and help build schools and roads and everything else that the government does. Effective taxation is something that's critical to effective marijuana regulation.
So I think in Florida, I'm not sure, maybe you know better than I do. I think we legalized medicinal marijuana, or am I wrong about that? Do you know?
I don't know.
No, that's correct. Florida has medical marijuana, and it has many of the same problems that recreational does, just not necessarily on the same scale.
And there would have to be an agency created that would oversee everything to make sure all of the regulations within the state are adhered to.
Right. We think just like alcohol, pretty much every state has a dedicated agency that regulates alcohol. In some of the states that have legalized marijuana, that agency also regulates marijuana. But there should be an agency who is tasked with overseeing the regulation of marijuana in a state that legalizes, and that agency should have the resources and tools it's need to enforce effective regulations.
I know there's a lot of people in our community. I mentioned in the intro, hopefully you heard me, that in 30 years of doing radio, the opinion of the general public, at least who call into a radio show, and mine specifically, it seems to have changed a lot in 3 decades. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if the movies had something to do with it, but it's definitely going in the direction of legalizing, it looks like.
Yeah, the trend is certainly that way. Colorado was the first to legalize recreational marijuana, and there's been a few states every year or two since. And that's definitely the trend, and it's why it's imperative that Congress go ahead and act now, so that they can set a framework for states to follow when regulating marijuana, and that way states can get off on the right foot and not have to learn hard lessons by not having effective regulations in place.
Okay, so help us help you. Is there a bill that we can ask our congressman to support?
So we're working with members of Congress to try and craft legislation or get the concepts included in legislation now, but they can visit our website at WSWA.org to learn more about what we're doing and keep in touch with us for updates.
Oh, excellent. Okay, WSWA.org. If you're looking at the video, I think that's on there. Well, I don't have the website, but it's the Wine and Spirit Wholesalers of America, WSWA.org. Dawson Hobbs, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for being on our show.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
You are welcome. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Chris Foster. A Senate hearing has started to hear Christine Blasey Ford's claim she was sexually assaulted by Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh when they were in high school.
He began running his hands over my body and grinding into me. I yelled, hoping that someone downstairs might hear me, and I tried to get away from him, but his weight was heavy. Brett groped me and tried to take off my clothes. He had a hard time because he was very inebriated and because I was wearing a one-piece bathing suit underneath my clothing. I believed he was going to rape me.
She says she thought he might accidentally kill her with his hand on her mouth, but she was able to get away. Later, Judge Kavanaugh will take questions from members of the Senate Judiciary Committee and a prosecutor brought in to assist with questioning. Judge Kavanaugh denies the accusation. Fox News. We report, you decide.
It's been called shell shock, war neurosis, and battle fatigue. Today, we call it post-traumatic stress disorder, and it affects 1 out of every 5 warriors returning from battle in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Wounded Warrior Project offers comfort and support for warriors with PTSD and all other scars of war, whether those scars are visible or hidden. Find out how to help, because for warriors, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. Please visit woundedwarriorproject.org.
When working at a growing business, you wear many hats. The new business hat, the buying toner for the copy machine hat, the sifting through tons of resumes hat. You can throw away that last hat thanks to Indeed.com. When posting your job, Indeed lets you add screener questions that give you a less time-consuming route to your short list of qualified candidates. So go ahead, dust off that extra long lunch hat. Hiring's better when you've got your short list. Save time on hiring when you post a job on Indeed. Get started today at Indeed.com/hire.
Live on stage at the Ocala Civic Theater, Born Yesterday.
Crooked businessman Harry Brock made his fortune on junkyards and a lack of scruples during World War II. In the fall of '46, he's in Washington, D.C. to bribe government bigwigs into shady deals. Harry has brought along quite an entourage. His showgirl mistress, his perpetual inebriated attorney, and his yes-man cousin who keeps the drinks filled and the payoffs coming. Go see Born Yesterday at the Ocala Civic Theater from October 18th to November 11th. Call them for tickets. 352-236-2274.
Hi, I'm Anthony with Finishing Touch Floors. Are you considering covering your old wood floors? Forget about it. Let Finishing Touch Floors restore your old wood floors. We offer sanding, refinishing, installation, and custom colored stains. With over 35 years experience, you need to call 321-396-2657. Let us put the finishing touch on your wood floors. For your free estimate, call 321-396-2657. That's 321-396-2657.
Howdy folks, RL here for Dairy Queen. As fall approaches, it seems our taste buds change gears and things like char-grilled hot dogs with chili come to mind. Also, I got a crow about our most tasty grilled and crispy chicken breast sandwiches. And everybody knows about our world-famous chicken tenders and pepper cream gravy. Mmm, good. But you might just want a banana split or a blizzard for dessert. Dairy Queen, Silver Springs, where we always treat you like kings and queens.
Here are today's headlines from The Source. WOCA. Florida Governor Rick Scott is asking the state's highest court to throw out a lawsuit challenging his authority to appoint 3 new justices to the state's Supreme Court. Age limits are forcing 3 justices to retire on the day Scott is scheduled to leave the governor's office. This month, Scott asked a nominating commission to start accepting applications. He also said he would try to reach an agreement on the picks with the next governor. The League of Women Voters and Common Cause maintain that the picks should be made by Scott's successor. Scott's attorneys yesterday filed a legal brief that argues the Republican governor should be allowed to move ahead on finding replacement candidates. The brief points out new justices have routinely been selected before a spot on the court is vacant. Marion County deputies and major crimes detectives have arrested a 36-year-old man for the murder of Walter Russell Elliott, which happened in July of 2018. The suspect is identified in the report as Jake Napier. Surveillance video shows Napier shooting and killing the victim. On July 28, 2018, at around 1 o'clock p.m., Marion County deputies were called to Southeast 145th Street in reference to a man being shot and set on fire. Deputies found the victim dead in a workshop located under a pole barn on the property. Deputies determined later that Elliott's cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head and that his body was set on fire after his death. During their investigation, detectives discovered surveillance cameras in the workshop which captured the murder on camera. Deputies say that after the murder, Napier fled to Texas, where he was later captured and arrested for a Marion County warrant for arson and tampering with evidence. He was transported from Texas to the Marion County Jail and given no bond. Napier has been charged with second-degree murder. The Star-Banner is reporting that school board member Bobby James has stated that the school district needs to do more to draw parents to community meetings at Oakcrest Elementary School. The school is currently facing state sanctions because of poor school grades. The article says that the school has an enrollment of about 600 students, but parents of only 17 children have attended 2 meetings since late last month. Oakcrest has 5 consecutive D grades and must earn at least a C after next spring's Florida Standards Assessments, or the district will close the school, turn it into a charter school, or hire an outside company to run the school. Florida will receive $8.2 million under a settlement that requires Uber to tighten data security after the ride-hailing company failed for a year to notify drivers that hackers had stolen their personal information. Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi announced Florida's cut of a $148 million settlement yesterday between Uber Technologies Incorporated and all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Uber learned in November 2016 that hackers had access request personal data, including driver's license information, for roughly 600,000 Uber drivers in the U.S. The company acknowledged the breach in November 2017, saying it paid $100,000 in ransom for the stolen information to be destroyed. The states sued Uber, saying the company violated laws requiring it to promptly notify people affected by the breach. Forecasters say Tropical Storm Kirk is gaining strength in the eastern Caribbean. The system was downgraded to a tropical depression earlier this week, but the National Hurricane Center says it has since reorganized. A tropical storm warning is in effect for the islands of Barbados, St. Lucia, Dominica, Martinique, and Guadeloupe. Forecasters say some spots could get as much as 10 inches of rain. Kirk's projected track shows it weakening into a tropical depression again along a path south of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Cuba, and Jamaica. There's some good news on toxic algae, and we're talking about the blue-green stuff, not the red stuff.
Florida's Gulf Coast is still dealing with a red tide epidemic that kills sea life and makes people sick. But Drew Bartlett at the Department of Environmental Protection says the blue-green algae outbreaks that cause so much trouble in South Florida are receding.
That very separate algae, that very separate phenomenon is dissipating. Martin County is not seeing the algae they were seeing before. They've demobilized their cleanup efforts. Lee County is ramping theirs down because it's just run its course.
Governor Rick Scott blames the Army Corps of Engineers for releasing the green slime from Lake Okeechobee. His opponents claim that slime is a byproduct of Scott's environmental policies. Rick Flagg, Tallahassee.
Volunteers from Florida went to Washington this week seeking more funding to fight cancer. One of those people is Donna Lundy, Florida lead ambassador for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network.
The Senate has actually passed 93-7 the increase of $2 billion that we're asking for in funding for the NIH that will then be sent through to the NCI, National Cancer Institute, for increased research funding.
She says this is important because cancer is a disease that takes a toll across multiple levels, and it impacts more people than just the patient. It isn't even October yet, but polls are trying to predict the outcome of the November 6th elections. A new poll from Quinnipiac University shows Democrat Andrew Gillum with a 9-point lead over Republican Ron DeSantis in the race for governor. Pollster Peter Brown says that's a big change from 3 weeks ago when it was too close to call.
He leads Republican Ron DeSantis in virtually all groups except Republicans, but he's really doing well among women. He's winning women by 20 points. And he's winning independents by 16 points.
Gillum has been outspent by as much as 4-1, but DeSantis' numbers have gone down. Only 42% of the people in the survey had a favorable opinion of DeSantis compared to 55% for Gillum. A new study finds most drivers don't understand the limits of advanced safety features on new cars. The survey was conducted by the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety. Matt Nasworthy is a spokesman for the Auto Club Group here in Florida.
As more and